I'm doing a quick video essay on The Machine Stops, written by E.M. Forster and published in 1909. I don't like this setup. Too formal. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is the world's differences to ours. Mostly physical. I'll get into symbolic stuff later. But everyone lives in these underground compartments that are completely isolated from every other human in existence. The way they communicate is through these video screens, and I thought it was pretty interesting how in 1909 that was predicted by E.M. Forster. Another pretty cool stuff would be their public transportation used for one cell block to another is these huge airships, which is actually completely wrong from the way we do stuff. We have the airplanes, as you're very much aware. They have these more Zeppelin-style airships that went out of style a while ago. Some other really cool stuff that's kind of predicted was the use of these little platforms inside the cells to move things around for people. You might have seen a few of these like smart home style things. The cells themselves do stuff like that as well. That's the physical stuff. The weirder, more ethical things, they come later. So the weird societal differences are really drastic. The things that they value are completely different and almost an inverse of ours. Perfect example is in the first chapter when Vashti, the mother of Kuno, those are our two protagonists. Vashti is on an airship to go visit her son, that she actually had to struggle quite a bit for whether or not to actually go visit her son. Something that in a modern world, a good bit of parents would do anything for their kids, right? Well, Vashti gets woken up on the airship by a sunlight. There's a ray of it in her cabin, and she's terrified. She can't even comprehend the idea of sunlight touching her. She freaks out, full, complete hysteria. One of the crew has to calm her down, and the way it was described in the book was tiny pink clouds on a sea of blue and a golden ocean of sunlight. And to everybody else that sounds idyllic and perfect, us especially, but to them it's this horrifying unknown. They've lived their entire lives sheltered underground in stop sign shaped tubes, pure white, with everything given to them hand and foot. Probably the biggest ethical difference is the devaluing of human life that occurs in the story of The Machine Stops. Things like suicide are taken so lightly to the point that they have a button for it in their rooms. You can do it at any time. Just push, gone. That's it. No one bats an eye. People lose friends every day without caring. Doesn't even faze them. Another really huge ethical difference is the human baby that will be born based off of two individuals being selected by the giant machine that rules over and cares for humanity. It encompasses the entirety of underneath the surface of the earth, and it controls every single one of those hexagon cells that people have. The machine will kill any infant that, after it's born, specifically, it will kill any infant that has any undesirable traits. And it's almost Sparta-esque. They'll kill anything that's sick, but the incredibly strange thing is that it will look for traits that would have athletes would have. Any traits shared with athletes, and they'd kill off an infant if it had these athletic traits. It would get rid of these things completely, based exclusively off of the idea that in a sheltered world, athletes shouldn't be there. In a modern world, that's unthinkable. We have these huge, huge programs for suicide awareness and prevention, and far more controversial topics for abortion that I'm not going to get into. It doesn't have the slightest bit to do with the story itself. The story itself's message is far more along the lines of don't rely on technology too much. So Kuno, Vashti's son, Kuno's whole story arc is the nobility and unbreakable human spirit. It starts with things like him breaking rules, not written rules, but societal ones, and then him moving on to breaking written rules. He didn't get permission to go outside, something that's actually allowed in the machine, but is looked down upon. He goes outside and finds more people outside. He speaks to them, he interacts with them, and he finds this whole other world of humans that aren't sheltered and stunted by the machine. And he, well, is enamored with it in a complete inverse to his mother, who's horrified. He moves on to break countless other rules and be threatened with eviction from the machine. He's glad of it, actually. He's inviting it. But that never actually happens. It was only kept as a threat. Later, he contacts his mother again, and he tells her he knows the machine's going to stop. Something's wrong with it, and he knows it. He's been inside the machine. Everyone else has been in walkways and living cells, but in Kuno's attempt to escape the machine to get outside, he ended up inside of its hardware and its behind mechanisms. He knows it's going to stop. Something's wrong with it. There's a good chance he actually caused the damage, but that's never actually elaborated on, and that's more of something I've thought of myself. Take it with as you will. I actually chose this really small enclosed area because of this story. Their cell wasn't given exact dimensions, but it was given a estimation of size, and I don't think this is quite right, but I figured I'm gonna stick myself in a small enclosed space for an extended amount of time to do the recording for this project, and I'll see how it turns out, because I think it'll be interesting. It'll probably turn into a ramble at some point, but it'll be fun. So yeah, the machine stops. I think it was great. I know only Professor Nance would have read my paper. He is the professor. To those of you who didn't read The Machine Stops, I hope this inspired you to go read it. To those of you who did read The Machine Stops, I hope this inspired some new thoughts, or maybe reinforced old ones. I kind of want to just sign off here, but one last thing, because this is a video and it's, 2018. Gotta get my discount meta joke out of the way. Knowing myself and this class, I should be sitting in the bottom left corner of this screen somewhere, right where I can't see the screen, because I have a great sense for sitting in certain areas. So, if I am there and this turns out correctly, I'm going to let my future self go ahead and sign off.